Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Helena.
Oh, and you have interference.
I do. That's quite fun. We'll most likely make that go away any second now. We are Speaker Insight, where we help speakers, authors, and coaches to build a portfolio business on your terms, so it works for you the way that you want it, and you get to do what you love. And I'm quite excited about today because we're going to be talking about how to build a business from your book. But I'm excited because it's a little bit of buzz for us. So I'm just going to invite you all to do the buzz in your business. And what we mean by that is, of course, for those of you who are inside the Connection Hub, which is the group of, sort of 9,000 plus speakers, authors, and coaches who are deliciously having conversations about all sorts of things, including the buzz in their business, the things that are happening that are exciting for you, the things you want to celebrate, the things you want to share, the things that make you talk worthy. Those are the things that we would love to actually hear about. So pop your comments in, whether you're doing this as a live with us, in which case, hi, welcome, we're glad to have you here, or whether you're doing it the way that a lot of people do, which is the hashtag replay. Do pop that in there as well, because we like to know when you watch this, as well as, just what you actually get out of it. So even though nobody else is watching with you, please let us know your questions, your comments, and everything that goes along with that. So Kelly and I have been very busy over the last month or so, and we are now at the stage, so the buzz in our business is definitely all around. We are beta testing our groups that give and grow, which is really exciting for us, because we have actually put a lot of work into it. And actually, dare I say it? Yes, I do. We're proud of it. We're really proud of it.
But what we mean by the title of the group, the course, is that it's how to build a Facebook group, because we get asked this question all the time, is how do you not only build so many members in the Connection Hub, but how do you build such an engaged community? So that's one of the things that we thought, hang on a minute, we get asked this every day, let's create a program around it.
Yeah, and I won't actually go into the stats around that, but it's really high. So if you are a little bit lonely working out there on your own as a speaker, author, or coach, and you're not in the Connection Hub, come and join us in there. Kelly's no doubt put the link in, and that all works really beautifully. But the other thing that I'm actually really excited about as far as the buzz goes is that we do these training sessions every Tuesday at 1:00 GMT, well, UTC, and one of the things that we wanted to bring in this year is absolutely to highlight the hubbers, to highlight the members that are actually part of the Connection Hub who have really good stories that can inspire you to say, because all of you are at different stages of your journey. And so we thought we'd actually pick on a couple of our, contributors, our top contributors inside the hub, and actually highlight them and let them share their stories so that you can learn from them and actually see what's possible, because we all have something to share. So before we get into the interview proper, Paul Wakefield, welcome. And what's the buzz in your business?
Yeah, hi ladies, thanks for having me. Yeah, great question. So the buzz actually is something that happened last month. I was actually listed by Brains magazine, which is this huge global magazine in Sweden. I was listed as a top 500 business leader and influencer. No idea how.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's cost me an absolute fortune, to be fair. No, it hasn't. It was incredible. They reached out to me on LinkedIn and had a conversation, had a chat with one of the guys there. And so, I'm sort of sharing the list with people like Jay Shetty, Gary Vaynerchuk, and, some incredible people that, I look up to, and mentors and things like that. So to be put on that list, extremely grateful and very blessed to be put on that list.
Well Brilliant. Done, you. We're really proud. I know when you celebrated that in the hub last month, there were even other hubbers that said that they had also been nominated and received it as well. So we know that obviously Brains magazine is something which they're looking at the experts in the hub quite intrinsically, I think.
Yeah, it's like
It's also good that, thanks Jacqueline for sharing, she's saying that her buzz is that she's very close to finishing her 3rd book, so starting to think more about promoting it. So what better place to be than here with Paul to learn about that?
Which is really amazing. So on that note, I think we'll just kick in straight away. I suspect that this is going to be one of those, knowing the 3 of us as I do, this is going to be one of those where we might not stick to the script, but it'll be good anyway. So we'll see how that one goes. And
for those of you that are watching on the replay, right, because you might be watching this in our social learning units, you might be watching this in a different time zone, let us know that you're watching by putting that hashtag replay. That would be great.
Yeah, really, really, really good. And again, pop the questions in as you go, or even tell us your stories as well, because when we share our stories, our speakers, authors, and coaches, we have actively said to the world, we have actually said to ourselves, we're going to claim a space, we're going to hold a space, we're going to be the thought leaders that we are, we're going to be the change makers that we can be, and we're going to do our best to inspire the world. So really, we want to hear the stories. And Shiggy, welcome. Ooh, just made it, which is great.
And Paul says this is where we love about the Connection Hub, right? Because Shiggy is one of our audiobook experts. So again, I'm sure you guys need to connect and collaborate as well.
Given a conversation I had with Shiggy this morning, I'm pretty certain that she'll be checking you out, but I'm just going to leave her to actually say that. So let's crack on. So and the first place is absolutely to start with your story, because you have a really powerful and inspiring story. So for all of the people watching, please can you tell us your story kind of up to the stage when you decided that you wanted to write your first book, because even that will be a teaching point. Let's say it that way.
Yeah, thank you. Take a seat, everybody.
Get your hot cocoa and your biscuits.
Exactly.
I'm ready.
Yeah, or your whiskey, whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
Evening time watching. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I mean, wow. I mean, it's been an incredible journey, not just the journey of business, but the journey of life, really. I'm one of these typical lads who would be labeled as being a typical boy. I grew up and all I wanted to do was play football. I walked to school kicking a football. I got to school kicking a football. I walked home kicking a football. So I was one of those lads. I absolutely hated school until sports day or PE or anything like that. And all my reports at school always used to be, if Paul focused in class like he focused in PE and football, he'd be an A-star student. Well, obviously that was never going to happen. I had my sights set. I wanted to be a footballer. I did actually have trials for Southampton and Crystal Palace when I was a kid, but due to injuries, sadly didn't happen. School was tough. I got heavily bullied. I'm from a very small, very close family that kind of lived in the middle of 2 areas in Downley, in High Wycombe, where I'm from. One side was very rich, wealthy, big houses, and the other side wasn't. And I was in the middle of them. So the very rich families never see me as being good enough for them. But yet I was, the other side see me as like somebody who was absolutely loaded. But yet, my father was an upholsterer, a very good upholsterer, but never earned huge money. My mum was a part-time cashier for Halifax, and again, I think my mum probably earned about 12 grand, and my dad probably earned about 16 grand. So I wasn't from a rich family, far from it, just a normal everyday family. So growing up was tough. I got bullied a hell of a lot, but I always had the drive of working. So even at the age of 12, I had 3 jobs, and come like 12, 13, I was earning like 80 quid a week. So I was again
poor dad scenario, right?
Yeah.
All the Kiyosaki sort stories coming
exactly.
through.
It really was. So I've always had the ethics in me as to work. Go and work hard. You only get out of life what you put in. Go and work hard. So yeah, it was pretty strange going through school and pretty tough. I always got on much better with girls than I did boys. There was always this big jealousy around me for whatever reason. I put it down to my looks, maybe not, but there was always a friction, and it wasn't nice. So anyway, I left school wanting to end up being I wanted to be a fashion designer, funny enough. And my expert advisor advised me to go into engineering.
This is your careers advisor at school, right?
Yeah, this was my career advisor.
All of our careers advisors.
Really?
They're incredible. So that was kind of my first real experience of taking advice from a flipping expert. You know what I mean? So the advice was go into engineering, because in engineering they have draftspeople. I don't quite know what the right word to say is. So I was like, okay, I'm sure there's some sort of madness or method to your madness. So anyway, I spent 3 years-ish training as an engineer, as a toolmaker. Failed miserably. And then at 19, I actually found out, which answered a lot of questions, actually found out that I was dyslexic. So that answered a lot of questions at school. And from there realized, or actually I got told that this wasn't the career for me. I was kind of like, yeah, no shit.
Oh, shit, Sherlock.
I didn't know if I could swear or not. I didn't know if I could say that, but it's like I'm not a massive fan of getting my hands dirty. I'm a bit of one of those. So it didn't work out. I then fell into retail, and I got a job working at River Island. Well, say that it was Concept Man back then in the late 80s, early 90s. I'm only 21. Just had a bad paper. So I got offered this job working at Concept Man in the warehouse in the stock room, and they were like, right, tidy up the stock room. It's a mess. Get it organized. And I was like, all right, well, that's easy. So I also found out that I have really bad OCD as well. So being dyslexic and having OCD, their stock room was absolutely immaculate. And they were like, this is the best we've ever seen this. And I was like, okay, cool. It's brilliant. So I'd done that for about 6 months. And then they were like, do you fancy coming out on the shop floor? And I was like, okay, cool. So at the time when it was all divided in different departments, shoes and formal wear and everything else, they was like, look, if you can work on the shoe department, that'd be great. And I was like, okay. So I did. And I started selling shoes. But then what I started doing was that anybody, and this was on menswear, any men that wanted shoes, and I was like, these look great, but they look better with a suit. Let's put a suit on you. Now let's get the tie. Let's get the cufflinks. So before I knew it, although I was based on one department, I was going everywhere, and I was selling this, that, and everything, and I loved it. And then
like people's personal stylist, right? You're getting your fashion thing back, aren't you?
But what I really love about that is that, and I relate tremendously, where you did retail, I did catering, and the same thing is true. I think those opportunities really build in that sales isn't an icky thing. Sales is actually just it's offering something to someone that they actively are just going to love even more because of that. And so, I love that you're demonstrating, sort of from all of our beginnings, because we need to mine our past in order to understand who we are. And I really love that, that upselling and the downselling that actually happens. We can do that as speakers, authors, and coaches. And it's kind of, the history that you have kind of shares that and shows that. I really relate to that.
It was kind of like my real kind of, this is what sales is like. I'm getting a buzz out of this. I like this.
Yeah.
So I had a fantastic career with them, and I was actually become, again, I worked my way up as store manager, then got involved in digital merchandising. I then got put in a part of the team that actually helped rebrand and then go from Concept Man Chelsea Girl into what is now River Island. So I'm really proud of that. And even now, like especially on menswear, I know they have their new tags, and on there it says established in 1989 or whatever it was. And I'm like, yep, I was part of that. So it was a massive learning curve for me. I then went on to do it with what was Orange, mobile phones, and obviously now I've done it with pubs. So my whole background sort of fell into sales, marketing, and business development. So I've had an incredible sort of working career in corporates. It was great, and I learned absolutely loads. Then in 2005, I moved up to Northumberland in the northeast. I fell in love with a Geordie lass. Went up there again, got into the traditional job. And within the space, I think of sort of, 8 months or a year, whatever it was, I got sacked from every job I had.
But you were still in a sales role, weren't you?
Still in a sales role. And, I was one of these people, I was first in the office, I was last out, smashing my targets, thoroughly enjoyed it, whether it was on the phone, face to face, I don't care, it's like, let's just sell, let's just get some money, I loved it. Yeah. But then I got sacked from the last one, and I said to the gaffer at the time, I was like, look, man, I said, this is ridiculous. Why do I keep getting sacked? This is 4 jobs now. Try not to take it too personally, because I do have a tendency to do that with my personality. And he was like, look, I'll be honest with you, Paul. He was like, you're way past the employee mindset. And I was like, what are you on about?
What does that mean?
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean? It's like, I come to work, I do the job, I get paid. That's obviously the mindset. That's all I need, right? Yeah. And he was like, no, he's like, you're way past like the employee mindset. I was like, okay, don't really get it. What do you suggest? He was like, you need to go and set up your own business. And I was like, you're joking. I was like, what do I know about setting up I was 30 years old. The only business that I ever had was a flipping paper round. You know what I mean? And it was a massive paper round, and I grew that, but I didn't know anything. And he was like, you've got what it takes. So I was 30 at the time, and I said to him, look, Paz, I was like, I'm 30 right now. I said, it was only 2 years ago I read my first book. And he was like, what? I went, age 28, I only read my very first book. And he was like, you're kidding me. And I'm like, no. I was like, I don't really read. I was like, so how can someone who doesn't really read, who only read the first book 2 years ago, go and start a business? He's like, of course you can. You've got what it takes. And I was like, oh, obviously. So anyway, I did.
But Paul, isn't that really interesting? And I see this so much with the dyslexia link to entrepreneurship. Yeah. And I think what that guy was saying to you about, you think differently, is because you would have done whatever it takes to hit those sales targets in that job, which sometimes means thinking outside the box, maybe not sticking directly to the rules. Yeah. And therefore, that encourages a culture that is a little bit uncontrollable for employees to have other people doing quite maverick type of stuff. Yeah. But you look at people like Alan Sugar and Richard Branson, they're all dyslexic, right? Yeah. And they all have this thing that they conceive things differently. They think outside the box. They look at things from a different perspective. Yeah. And they've got that hunger to want to do something different as well. Yeah. So I just want to really acknowledge those people that think, I haven't read a book till the age of 28. I am dyslexic. I feel, no, actually, you've actually got a zone of genius that most people don't have.
It's actually really interesting, because I think there is something here, and I'm just going to flip it on its head and actually say, what if we, as entrepreneurial people who maybe are not dyslexic, channel our inner dyslexic and actually loosen up a little bit around that? Like, imagine if you didn't, if you couldn't make a total sense of the words in the way that you normally do, what would you have to rely on instead? And that's the piece that pretty much starts everybody on their business. There's some passion, there's some peevedness. I shan't actually go straight down the line of swearing, but there is some passion or some peeve that we actually take our creativity and apply that to. And I think when you are not in the boundaried how everybody else does it, actually you can go much bigger with, how do I put my passion or my peeve out in the world in a way that actually really satisfies me, but also really supports and helps other people. So channel your inner dyslexic, I feel, is definitely a thing.
And just what Jacqueline's just said, all the best geniuses throughout history were somewhere on the spectrum in some way, amazing inspiration. So,
for sure.
This is all about celebrating diversity, uniqueness, because this is where the thought leaders and change agents come from, is actually coming at it from that perspective. But what I want to acknowledge is that people might be looking at this and going, well, look at Paul's story. It's going up and up and up, and he's getting better and better. Let's talk about the other parts of your story, Paul, which are as inspiring as the way that you've
for a different reason
those industries.
So I started the first business, which was a traditional consultancy practice. Done what everyone said. I wrote a 5-year business plan because apparently that's what you should do. I got an office as well because that's what you should do. And I instantly got staff as well because apparently that's also what you should do because that's what the experts tell you. But one thing, when I wrote the business plan, I wrote a 5-year business plan. Let's say this was 2007 or whatever it was. One thing that I missed out on in that business plan was something that was called a recession in 2000. I mean, how on earth I missed it, I have absolutely no idea. So one thing that I realized that business plans, unless you're getting investment, are a complete waste of time. So I ended up, because of the recession and also making several mistakes, I was forced to close that business. It was 9 months before I was actually due to get married to, obviously, who now is an ex. And it come in between us both, obviously, the stresses of all of that. And so I know we hear this all the time now, but sadly I lost everything and become homeless early 2008. in Northumberland, which wasn't pleasant. I'd been living up there for a few years. So yeah, I'd kind of like to say like the whole career had gone up like that. And apart from like sort of personal situations of dealing with various other things, which I'm happy to go into a bit later, I hadn't really, obviously from a career point of view and working point of view, never really experienced anything like this. So I had everything. I had a great house, great career, lovely car, money coming in, to then literally having nothing. And it was all.
And you're somewhere not alien, but you're not in your hometown. You haven't got your family.
The support structures. Yeah.
And also, you know, male pride also comes into this massively as well.
Yeah.
You know, because it was like, well, I have to pretend everything's okay. The last thing I want is my parents to be worrying about me. They're 300 miles away. Everything's all right. You know, I'm okay, Jack. So it was tough. And then I was very lucky. A friend of a friend was like, look, you know, I haven't really got a proper room for you, but I can give you a roof over your head. We'll literally put some sheets and a pillow on the floor if you want it. And I was like, absolutely. So I accepted that, which is, you know, again, forever grateful for. Yeah. And then we was having a conversation. It's like, so what are you going to do now then? And my first response was like, well, I don't want a job. And the look that he gave me was like, you know, as if I just insulted him. And he was like, well, you're not staying here on a freebie forever. You know what I mean?
It's like you don't have a choice type of thing.
Exactly. And I was like, no. I was like, what I mean by that is like, I've now had to taste the business. You know, it's like, I know I can do this. I just have to learn by my mistakes. Yeah. And he was like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, well, apart from my laptop and this bag of clothes, it's like literally don't really have anything else. And he was like, well, you know, just have a think. Obviously very grateful again because he allowed me to use his Wi-Fi. And I have to say Wi-Fi because every time I say that recently, people think I say he shared his wife with me. He didn't share with me. He allowed me to share his Wi-Fi internet connection. So yeah, I went on the internet and I was searching for all sorts of stuff. And as I'm sure you can imagine, I come across like loads to get rich quick stuff. You know, sit on your backside on the beach and earn $30,000 a month doing nothing. Yeah. And I'm afraid to say to the audience, I'm afraid that doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. But then I did come across a guy who was doing a webinar. So this was like summer of 2008. And this webinar at the time, again, I knew nothing about a webinar, but this guy was like talking about digital products and joint ventures and how he grew this business. And I was like, that sounds amazing. I have absolutely no idea what you're on about, but I'm going to go on it. So I attended the webinar. And the first thing he said was like, right, guys, I'm going to tell you how simple business is. And I was like, you patronizing prat. I've just lost everything. And here you are going, oh, it's so easy. You know what I mean? And I was like, no, it's not. Far from it. But anyway, he did. I've never heard it like made to seem so easy. It was like, right, here's business. Here's what happens. He said, you find a hungry group of people with a problem and you create or find the solution and put it in front of them. And he said that, and I was like, go on then, keep going. Like, yeah, it's like, what's your answer? You know what I mean? And he said it again. And then when I suddenly thought, and I was like, hang on a minute, that literally is. That is like, they have a problem and I have to solve it. How I solve it is up to me. So, yeah, I was on this webinar and it was talking obviously at the time about digital products, ebooks and things like that. And I made more notes on that flipping webinar than I ever done at school. It was unbelievable. And I still have them in a folder to this day. It was unreal. But then once he started talking about this product creation and everything else, he was then talking about joint ventures. And he was like, the biggest problem that people have is that they don't have customers. So it was find people who have your customers and work with them. Yeah. So the whole webinar, it blew my mind. It was a completely different way of doing business. And then, like I say, summertime, I had nothing else to do. I was reading through these notes and I was like, right, you know, let's just literally just brain dump. So I started typing like all things like the mistakes I made, why I wasn't happy, things about goal setting and all of this sort of stuff. Excuse me. And over the period of about 4 or 5 months, I'd put together like a 172 word document about all this stuff. And I was like, wow. And then reading through my notes, I was like, hang on. So this is like the product that he was talking about. He then talked about, you know, saving it as a PDF and then suddenly got an ebook and that. So suddenly I had like this first product. The next thing was then customers. So I was reading again what he said about that. And he was like, look, reach out to people, do some research, reach out to people who you think have got your customers, and reach out and say, look, this is who I am, this is my situation, this is what I've got, I think I could help your customers. So I made a list of about 50-ish people, names and email addresses. Again, it was like business coaches, consultancies, agency, and all of that. And I said, look, hi guys, this is who I am, this is my current situation, but I've put this ebook together, or this digital product together, and I think it could help your customers. I talk about the problems here, there, and I listed like what I spoke about. I said, I'd love to work with you and do like a joint venture. Here's what I'm offering. I'm offering to do a webinar, a training to your audience. If anybody buys the product at the end of this, we split the profits 50-50. All I ask is anyone who buys, can I keep their details? Because I don't have any database of myself. And I had about 14 or 15 people reply saying, yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
And just a question on that, because I know some people are going to be thinking, hang on a minute, I'm at this stage. How much were you selling your ebook for, and what did you give them as a split of commission?
So it was a 50-50 split on commission.
Yeah.
Because it was a digital product, so it wasn't actually costing you anything to create or ship.
Literally, it was a Word document just saved as a PDF. So it didn't cost anything. The only thing it cost initially was the time.
Yeah.
In regards to the cost, I mean, it's a great question, because we arranged to do this joint venture on the 26th of October 2008, 7:30 p.m. So on that, like 2 or 3 days prior to that, the guy who I ended up doing this with, he was like, right, he texted me, he's like, right, do you want a conversation? Let's go over a few things. I was like, yeah, cool. He's like, well, let's jump on Skype. I was like, I have absolutely no idea what Skype is. And he was like, I don't know what Skype is. So I had to discover what Skype was. So jumped on Skype, and he was like, right, how's everything? I was like, yeah, great. He was like, how's the presentation coming along? I went, what presentation? He's like, what? I was like, what presentation? He's like, for the webinar. I went, I haven't done a presentation. And he's like, well, you wanted to do a webinar. I went, yeah. He went, well, you've got to do a presentation. I was like, well, I don't know. He said, well, why did you want to do a webinar? I went, oh, because I attended one about 6 months ago. I thought it was really cool. And it was like, oh, mate. He was like, you've got to do a presentation. I was like, oh, Christ, okay. He's like, well, have you got any other questions? I was like, yeah. I went, how much are we selling this thing for? And he went, £47. And I went, what? He went, £47. I went, no, seriously, Tim. I went, how much are we selling this for? And he went, yeah, £47. I went, Tim, I said, you do realize this isn't a physical product? He was like, yeah, of course I do, Paul. It's called an ebook. I went, whatever. He said, well, have you got a problem with that? I went, no, you're the expert. I said, but how can you sell something that isn't a physical object for 47 quid? I said, it's ridiculous. He went, trust me, just leave it with me. So I was like, okay. But anyway, on the 26th of October, I hobbled up to town because I was on crutches as well. I was in a really bad place. Went to the cash point to get some money out, to get some food. So typed in 20 quid, got declined. I typed in £10, got declined. I checked my balance and I had £2.87 in my bank account. I literally broke down on the floor in tears, an absolute mess. I texted him and said, mate, I'm done. I shouldn't even be here. I'm completely done. We're not going ahead. And he was like, we are going ahead. I'm like, we're not, mate. I've got nothing. I'm sleeping on a random floor. I have nothing apart from, I'm here. That's it. He's like, get yourself home. We're doing this. And I was like, great. So obviously I did. 7 o'clock come. We started the webinar. He introduced me. I'd done the worst presentation ever. It was absolutely horrendous. And then at the end of it, I then turned around and I went, right. I went, there's like a link or something here, or Tim put it somewhere. I went, you can buy like this ebook. I went, it's like 47 quid, I think, something like that. I went, anyway, if you want it, go and get it. Tidy up to you. Not sure. So yeah.
Very slick. Very slick.
Really salesy. Yeah.
Somebody who has been in sales for so long. And I then suddenly got a message from Tim going, that was really shit. And I was like, oh no. And then followed by went, oh, you've just sold one. You've just sold 4. You've just sold 7. And I was like, no way. And literally within about 40 minutes, we sold 128 copies and made just over £6,000 in profits. And that was kind of the start of the now journey, because about, I don't know, I think it was We went through, that was October 2008. Sadly, in 2009, as a family, I had 7 family funerals. I lost all my grandparents, and absolutely horrendous. So I was like mentally in a really bad place. But then beginning of 2010, the guy who done the initial webinar, a guy called Mark Anastasi, there might be a few people on here.
You know him well, yeah.
For sure. I actually have a sculpture that he gave me.
Oh, really?
I've still got it in my house. Yeah.
Fantastic. Love it. Well, he was doing another webinar about Facebook, and it was like how to make money on Facebook. So I went on there, and then the first question was, is anybody making money on Facebook? I was like, yeah, I am. And he was like, well, how much? I was like, well, I've just made about $13,000 in like the last week. And he was like, what? And I was like, oh, well, sorry, I know you're like a multimillionaire. That's obviously, it's not a lot to you. You know what I mean? And he was like, we need to talk. So he done his webinar, and then at the end, we hooked up on Facebook, sent me a message, like, right, I really want to interview you. So we done an interview, and that was my first ever interview, like I say, in 2010. And he was like, wow. He was like, I love that. That's amazing. He was like, look, I'm doing a seminar in London called the Ultimate Facebook Seminar. He was like, I'd love you to talk and come on stage. And I was like, yeah, all right. And he was like, would you? I went, Mark, I haven't been out of my house for like 18 months. And he was like, what? I was like, I've literally been living in my bed. I'm like seriously depressed. Life isn't great. You know, it's like I've fallen into this whole online marketing stuff because life is pretty shit. And he was like, great, I'll market you out to everybody and you can come to the event. And I was like, that's not really the response I wanted. But anyway, I did. He then obviously went on to write the book called The Laptop Millionaire, I think 2011, 12, whenever, and featured me in that. My little ebook that I wrote back in 2008 somehow got into the hands. I don't know how. I don't even know if I sent it. I have no idea. But the beautiful man himself, who I know you're connected with, and I love him to pieces, got a lot of respect for him, Chris from Filament Publishing.
Chris J.
Yeah, love him to bits. Great guy. Very, very kindly. I mean, he must have been mad. Offered me a publishing contract for the book, and turned that little ebook into a book, my very first book, which is called No Excuses, No Limit. So I have absolutely no idea where it will come from. Everything happens for a reason. But then suddenly to be saying that, you know, I was a published author, was just, you know, crazy, absolutely crazy. But
it changes something in you as well as changes the perception that people have of you, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's also changed your direction, and we will go on to that in a little bit. To talk about what you now do with potential authors and published authors. But we really wanted to highlight how organic your story was, but also your book came from that roller coaster journey, from that experience, because that, you know, we have trainings on the golden thread of in your business, because a lot of people have done lots of stuff, but they can't find that golden thread of what's their calling, what's their message, what's their thing that they can pass on to other people. I've got one question that niggles me, because I'm a geek. If you sold that amount of that conversion from that webinar, do you have an understanding of the joint venture partners, of how many people, the reach of that joint venture partners to get that? I think you said it was a £6,000 sale. Do you have any understanding of figures, just to help people? Because when people start talking about joint ventures, when I used to run a course about how to make your book a bestseller via Amazon, I would make sure that those people through joint venture partners would get at least 5 million people reach in order to make their book a bestseller. If you were doing joint ventures and getting people sending emails, this is way before Facebook was really a thing. You know, this is going back a while. But I'm just interested from you. Do you have any insight on that stat at all, an estimate?
All I know is even when we done the webinar, I had no idea how many people were on that webinar.
Wow.
We sold 128 copies of the book then. In regard, he could have had 1,000 people. I mean, we used GoToWebinar. I think it was GoToWebinar, and the maximum still is 1,000.
Yeah.
So
so that gives you an underestimate. Yeah. Okay. So even if you're working on a 10%
conversion
of people reach that then join the webinar, that then bought the book, then that gives people an understanding. That's great. Okay.
So I'm just going to say this. one of the things that Kelly and I are very, very keen on, sort of, it is brilliant hearing the inspiration stories. And as speakers, authors, and coaches, you're still in charge of your business. So we're always going to bring it back to the foundations around how does it happen? It isn't magic. There is a conversion thing that you can actually have. So I'm really glad you asked the question, Kelly.
And then the other thing is that people might be in that scenario where you are, where they feel that they've got a calling, they feel that they've got a story to tell. Yeah. And they would love to have the published author, as you got from Chris Day's at the end. What do you think are the main barriers that stop people from either writing their book or publishing their book? And maybe you might have had some of these experiences yourselves, but can you, as I know that you work now with authors, what do you hear a lot of the time which stops people from doing it?
I can't do it. Literally, like, I can't write a book. Why? Well, why can't you write a book? I've got nothing to say. I'm like, really? It's like everyone has a story. Everyone has some sort of knowledge in there. No, that initial fear is I can't do it. I haven't got what it takes to write a book, and then followed by who would read it?
I hear that one a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Who would listen to me, basically?
Why?
Exactly.
Yeah. Why do I matter? Why does my story matter?
Who am I to write a book? Yeah. When you think like the second most, and I want people to get this, the second most successful author in the UK is Jamie Oliver.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Jamie Oliver is a chef.
Yes.
But yet he's the second most successful author in the UK. Yeah. He uses his book to build his business.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of the celebrities now, and I even say, I talk about Davina McCall a lot. I love Davina McCall. If we look and break down what Davina McCall is, and this isn't just, Davina McCall's a presenter, a TV presenter, but yet she's an author. She has DVD products. She has digital products. She has this, she has that. There's a reason why all these people are doing it. So rather than look at these people and go, oh, well, I shouldn't do it because I'm not a celebrity, you should look at them and go, well, if a celebrity's doing it, so should I.
And that's actually the bit for us, really. When we talk about a portfolio business, we are talking about the blend of being a speaker, author, and coach, and using the experience and the expertise that you have to really kind of pull that in. So I know that you do some. Go on. You go in there first.
Yeah,
go.
I'm still hanging, Paul. Right. So I get that the people don't know if they're worthy of it. They've got something to say, or it's maybe the practicalities. Maybe they are dyslexic. Maybe they don't know where to start with how to start writing that book. And I know we have trainings on how to start writing a book, so I'm not going to go down that route. But what got you out of your way to spend those 5 months to write the book? I know that person inspired you and just said, look, go through. But how did you
power through? Yeah.
I realized again I had a message to share. It's like my first, and again I know it's very cliche. We hear it all the time, but like at the beginning of my book, I talk about having guns to my head when I was a kid, being chased, being bullied, being threatened, being told to get out of High Wycombe, my hometown. I wasn't going to kill you. I talk about all of that. Now, there's a lot of people who will be like, well, why do people want to know that? Well, my audience does want to know that, or do want to know that, whatever the right English is. So when people kept saying to me that you have a message to share, I didn't really get that. It was a bit like when my old boss, or my last boss, said to me that you're past the mindset. I didn't really get that. But then the more when I started looking at things and going online, let's say I was on social media very early days, I was attending more webinars, I was going to more events, and these people were talking about their story. So I tried to put like my marketing head on, and like everything that I'd done as a career, the whole purpose was business development. With what I've done was turning Concept Man and Chelsea Girl into River Island. There's a story, there's a journey from from Orange to EE. There's a story, there's a journey. So when I started realizing that and took the whole poor Paul, pity me rubbish off, I suddenly realized that all I'm doing is sharing my story, which allows me to attract the right people into my life.
and extracting it. And I think there is something about borrowing belief from other people, because I think we can undervalue, because our story is our story, and it's just, what we live in the microcosm of it. We don't necessarily see the value of it. So actually hearing the belief of other people, when other people start to say to you, you really got something here, or that really inspired me in some way, I think one of the first calls is actually for us to just stop for a minute and go, is that true? Okay, well, they're saying it, so it must be true, because most people don't actually lie to your face and go, you're inspiring. When they're actually saying that, there's something about believing others, even if you don't see it or believe it. And that's that bit that you're then talking about, which is looking at it properly and going, what are they seeing? So stepping into their eyes and going, how might this be an inspiration? Because it obviously is.
Yeah, exactly. And that
doesn't mean that we put it in an autobiography book.
No,
it's more in a practical service
how-to learning
book.
Okay. And what people have to understand here also is that you only have to share what you want to share.
Yes.
When I first started telling my story at my events and others' events, I used to start it off, obviously, with being in business. I now go back to being a kid and hating school.
Yeah.
So it's like, as time's gone on, I feel more comfortable about saying that I was rubbish at school, that I've got no qualifications, that I was bullied, that I was this, that I was that. Because now more and more, I always tell a story, sadly without diversion a little bit. When I was 21, when I was 21, I started having counseling. I had counseling for several years. One of the big things that come out of me having counseling, I had addicted a personality, which answered the problems for drinks and drugs that I was having. I was suffering badly with depression even back then, and anxiety. I had a severe panic attack when I was 21. And the panic attack was so severe, it created a lack of oxygen to my brain. I collapsed and I died for 30 seconds, and I was brought back around. So when I come around, I had like these paramedics next to me. I was like, what the hell's going on? Funny enough, the first words out of my mouth were, where's my kebab? Some things have never changed. and then they explained what had happened. So even from then, I looked at him for, okay, 3 things could have happened. I could have obviously died. I could have survived with severe brain damage, or I could have survived as I am, maybe a little bit, not 100%. But even there was my story to say, look, this is part of my story. This is part of my journey. I come from an incredible family, massively, so loved, so small, amazing. But yet I've still had ups and downs. Yeah. So share what you want to share, but then put it into a book that is actually solving a problem. Like I say, we're not
somebody else.
Yeah.
We're not talking about writing a biography. It's like, here's the problem that I had. Here's how I solved it. And that is it. And then, like I say, there's your how-to book that helps sell and solve problems for others.
And that then becomes, and this is what we're talking about, really, this whole building a business from your book, because the book, it isn't about building the business around the book. It's about the ideas in the book that you can then actually repurpose from. So I know that you've taken a lot of people through this process now. So so for those people who are aspiring writers, and indeed those people who have their books but aren't necessarily promoting them in the way that they might like to, can you talk a little bit about, how people can repurpose the content to create a business around them? What, you've already hinted, I think, at the Davinas of the world and how they're kind of doing them as products and services. But can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. So look, I mean, I now have like this framework that we use to obviously write books. So the books that come through us are done in a way that they write the book, they can then create a membership site, they can create workshops, retreats, mastermind groups, and everything else. So they're done for a purpose. So the first thing we look at is obviously, what's the core problem that you're solving in your book? Yeah. And then once you figure that core problem out, we then branch off to do that. So the first thing is really understanding what is the problem you're doing. It's then looking at it and going, right, how can I now take this book and make it my business? Yeah. Now, I'm not giving a little plug here. This is like my latest book. It's ridiculously thick. There's like 500 pages in there. Realistically, it's way too thick for a book. But the reason why I done that is because there's so much in there, because I know I'm going to be living off this for the rest of my life.
Right.
It's like your Bible, basically.
Yeah.
Show it up again, Paul. Tell people the title.
So it's Freedompreneur Secrets: How to Grow a Highly Profitable Business Online.
Beautiful.
So, but within this, I literally I first talk about finding your expertise and pulling your expertise and your knowledge out of your head. I then talk about mindset, business, making money. I then talk all again at the end about gratitude. So it literally is like a lifetime of knowledge in here.
Yeah.
Because then when I look at that and go, right, there's the 5 sections. So for startups, I can help startups from my book and go, right, here's how you take that expert knowledge out of your head and create a book.
Yeah.
Once you found that knowledge, now you can turn that, if it's a passion, you can turn that into profit and you can make money.
Yeah.
So the key thing that we look at, and again, we hear loads of people going, right, I'm making a course, I'm developing a course. I love that. And obviously I've got courses, but I feel the biggest problem is that you're trying to sell a course off the cuff, whether that's £1,000, £2,000, 600 quid.
Yeah.
But yet we live in a world now where we were growing up, trust was something that was broken.
Yeah.
Now in business, trust is something that has to be gained.
For sure.
To be earned, yeah.
It's got to be earned, So the reason why I say to everybody, I encourage you to write a course and create a course, but do your book first, because your book is going to help you grow your credibility.
Yeah.
And then once you've grown your credibility, then use the content of your book as your content marketing strategy. Yeah. So the book grows credibility. The content inside it builds your expert
social reach.
It's just social reach.
And then with that, you're then attracting the people to you, which then is going to buy your book. They're going to opt in to buy your book. You can then take content from your book and create mini courses, micro courses. So we look at it and go, right, so the first thing, sell it for £12. They buy it for 12 quid. They then upsell and get a micro course for £97.
Yeah.
Then downsell to £47.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you offer is a webinar for your course or your group coaching program at £2,000.
Your flagship program.
Yeah, flagship.
That is your signature program. So you've now gone that, like, here's my credibility. Yeah. Here's my expert status.
And in that credibility piece, Paul, I want to highlight, they still get small results.
Exactly.
Sure.
They raise awareness most of the time, but they start the journey of those small steps and they start to see a difference. It's not the transformation that happens on the flagship signature program.
Exactly. It's the possibility. It's actually the possibility of, I just did that. Oh my goodness me, I didn't even think I could. And it's the tiniest thing in relatively speaking. But for them, it's that massive leap that just went, hang on a minute, what? A little bit like you with your, sort of did the webinar and suddenly £6,000 later, here we are. It's that tiny little thing that was just an action that got taken.
Definitely. And the whole purpose of the book is to help you obviously gain that credibility or grow that credibility and show your expert status. But the biggest thing for it, guys, is to get you earning what you are worth.
For sure.
Right. When I was in a job, the last job that I had, like my basic salary was 25 grand a year, but I was earning about 47 grand because obviously targets and everything else. Like I said to you guys, like my aim has never been to go and earn multi-millions.
Yeah.
My aim was to go, right, here's my income that I was earning, and life was pretty good when I was earning that. So if I was earning 25 grand, regardless of the commission, let's push that aside. If I was earning 25 grand and life was pretty good, I then turn and go, right, I want to earn 35 grand because then that 10 grand actually makes me financially independent to what I've been doing. And if I still lose maybe 2 or 3 customers, I might then go from 35 maybe down to 32, 34. I'm still earning more.
That's
so
right.
we look at that and go, right, well, that's our end goal, 10 grand more than what you've ever earned. Now reverse engineer it. And what have we got to do? How are we going to get those clients? Because if you break your salary down, I see far too many people that, again, are still trying to sell stuff for peanuts.
Yeah.
Yet they wouldn't work for peanuts.
Yeah.
So, it's like, guys, value what you are worth.
Yeah.
You are worth 50, 60 grand a year. Create a business that's going to do that and give you 50, 60, 70 grand a year.
But I think that's actually, and that's partly why Kelly and I, set up Speaker Insight in the first place, is because actually a lot of speakers, authors, and coaches fall into the trap of not actually being able to value that or price it or indeed manage the business around that allows them to be the thought leaders that they actually can be. And some people just need that support to actively structure the business and build it from that place, right?
And I think the world that Paul and I know very well anyway, the old network marketing, internet marketing,
for sure.
Right, is the fact that it was just a numbers game, and it was just get loads of people through and sell something for £2.99. And actually, when you're a thought leader or a change agent, or your business is your brand, you can sell something on a smaller scale, but for more money because it's got more worth in there. And I think people have got the industries mixed up, and they've set themselves vast expectations, which puts much pressure on them, when actually they could earn the same by putting their prices up to what the real value of that product is, and working very much on a closer community of people that know, like, and trust them, that they have their sphere of influence, that they do work with joint ventures. I think joint ventures is such a key strategy for people that they don't have enough of.
Definitely.
Because you're leveraging other people's trust as well as your own trust. And when you're trying to get 10 million people through a funnel on a weekly basis, trust isn't there.
Exactly.
So I'd love to, really get people to shift differently, that they can be in control in their small community and earn the money as long as they've done what you're doing, Paul, and what we teach, portfolio style business. The core message is the book, and then you actually go, well, there are different products, whether that's the way that they want to engage, there's learning style, audio, kinesthetic, or visual. And then also, how much hand-holding do they need? If they're going to go on a mastermind or retreat, it's intense. If they're going to do an online course, it's less intense. So the price difference ranges as well. So
it's all about putting that together. Kelly, I'm aware of time.
And I just want to highlight one thing from Paul, because I know this is one of Paul's key messages, but also key focuses. And it comes back to your story, Paul, is affordability.
Yes.
So from your services point of view, can we just talk a little bit about your brand of Freedompreneur? And also what your offerings are, because I think that's something people think publishing, people think these things, that it's going to cost them so much that if I was homeless and how do I start, right? So tell them a little bit about that, and also your value of affordability.
Yeah, definitely. So like I started with nothing. So for me, it was like, how can I help businesses grow, but making everything affordable? It's like, I'm not a London agency. I don't want to be pulling the eyes out of everybody and ripping them off. So the whole basis of the business, of what we've built, is all very structured around making business simple, affordable, and fun for everybody. So I've built a business and building a brand which is all based around offering expert advice and support for coaches, consultants, and service providers by keeping everything affordable. So we've just literally, we put a survey out to our customers and our list yesterday actually, and we've now had like a 94% success rate with our clients. But which is great, but the biggest thing that come out of it was the fact that you have helped me grow my business without spending a penny on advertising, and allowing us to do it on an affordable basis. So, I had a call with a guy yesterday. Again, he's going to be signing up. And he initially come to me, again, because he see a post the other day, he's like, I really want to write a book. And I was like, okay, cool. So the first objection for him was like the cost. He was like, I've just signed up to a coaching program, which is 12 weeks old. He was like, so I really need to think about the cost. And I was like, okay, cool. I said, well, I've got an online course, and I don't know if it's okay to say this. It's like, but you can go through that course. It's a step-by-step program. There's 8 modules in it. At the end of it, you will get my team to professionally edit, format, design, and publish your book. He was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. I was like, and it's £1,600. And he went, he was like, sorry? I was like, it's £1,600. I said, or if you actually want the same results, but you also grow your business, I said, I've got an online course, again, which actually helps you start and grow your business. We're still edit, publish professionally, do all your business, your book and everything else. We get that done, but you're going to get the whole business growth, and that's just shy of $2,500.
And that's all the marketing and stuff that goes alongside that, right?
All the marketing, sales scripts and everything. They get a whole lot. So for me, it's like, let's make it affordable for you to start and grow a business.
Yeah,
beautiful.
And that, really for most people, when they think about publishing, this is like self/hybrid publishing, not traditional publishing, where you do pay for all the services. That is still, because you're not just getting a publishing deal, you're getting the course and the understanding and the information around that, as well as all the deals that goes with the book. So it's incredible value, but also the support and the guidance that then helps them. They don't just walk away with a book. They walk away with a blueprint that allows them to repurpose and grow a business around their book. The book's just the starting point. So
it is. They get lifetime access to these courses. And like I said to you guys before this, I've in the last few months, I've pulled a lot of it out because I looked at that and thought, hang on a minute, that's not actually necessary. I don't need. I'm going to add something else. So we've streamlined the whole course, and they get lifetime access to that. Like for $2,500.
And what I really like about that is that, and again, it's a lesson for every single one of us that's in this industry, is that just because you've done it once doesn't mean you can't actually go back, revise it, do a second edition, actively add in more that you've learned and that kind of thing. Because, of course, we're in the world of repurposing content and our stories are ever evolving. And so I we could probably stay here for ages and ages. But
and you're getting a lot of love. I just want to read that. Someone from Haiti said, thanks for sharing your story, Paul. Inspirational. It really does let people know what is possible regardless of their resources. So and that really sums up, I think, the feel for this live. We know lots of people in the publishing and expert industry world, and we like to show people. Really, it's more your story to inspire people that they can do what you do. But the bonus with you is that you then support them to do the next step, as well as inspire them at an affordable and a supportive way. So we love having you in our world. We know that you're in the Connection Hub, and a lot of people watch our lives on the replay or in the social learning unit. So if you've got a question for Paul, tag him in the comments. I've put a link to his website, his academy, his Facebook group, all in the comments. So again, you can continue the journey with Paul after this live. But I'm sure, Paul, you'll be happy if people tag you and ask you any comments.
I was going to say, you've probably got the idea that he's fairly approachable.
To me, my background is in retail, which is customer service, and that's what I believe on. So I believe on building a business on quality rather than quantity. And supporting people as much as I possibly can. And you're more than welcome. Anybody, reach out to me, ask me questions. I love it. I do struggle to talk about it.
Let's think about that.
I'm happy to offer any support to anybody. Just reach out, guys.
That's really great. Thank you so much.
Can I just end on one thing? And this is something that my very first mentor said to me, and I put it in my first book. And it stuck with me. And he said to me, Paul, the life you have led up until now doesn't have to be the only life you lead.
That's right.
Nice.
And that stuck with me forever. And I think it always will. So we are sadly in tough times right now. It isn't forever, guys. It isn't forever. No. We're all together in this. Okay. Reach out. Speak to people, connect with people. Don't be shy. Please reach out and talk to whoever it is. And remember, whatever we're going through right now isn't the last of it. It's not the end of it. We'll get through this together, and just stay together and support each other through everything, guys.
For sure. Well, thank you. And we'll see a lot of you inside the Connection Hub probably talking about that.
Bless you. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Thank you for having me.